Buddy, what's up? So I'm just gonna do about 12 minutes before I start showing the actual levels. I'm gonna be going through all, well, best I can, all 10 that existed. Let me just go throw this up on Twitter. Throw this up on, at everybody on Discord. So why canceled? So this project was gonna, rather than SPV3, which was based on all the original content that we did, this was based on ripping a bunch of content from a series of games, including Halo Online, unfortunately the stolen build that was used to create El Dorito, Halo Wars 2, and a game called Stubbs the Zombie, which was made by Alex Ropian after he left Bungie. And he made Stubbs the Zombie on the Halo engine. It was basically a fork of the Halo engine, so it's almost identical to Halo 1, which is how we were able to get entire levels lifted right out of it, along with other content that we were going to use in Oddball. So I'm just going to be doing questions and answers for now. I'm going to start actually broadcasting gameplay in about 8 minutes. Okay, so I was just posting it up on Discord. So it was never called Oddball. That was only the code name. And nice to see you here, Hokey Bird. Am I fat? No, I'm not fat. We're current 3, 2, 1 game time. We're currently doing an update for SPV3, which is going to add 6 new missions. What's up, Sapphire? By the way, Hokey Bird, I have some stuff to show for you. I have to run you through some of those new missions. Cheatham, the second half has been out for over a year. We're doing another update with even more maps. 6 new maps for SPV3. Along with a bunch of new features and weapons. And revised graphics. No, that Library Evolve thing is not gonna happen. What if there was gore in Halo Booty Wraith? I'm glad you asked, because you're gonna see some gore in this. No current date for the update. 60 or 16? We're adding 6 new missions to SPV3, so it'll be a total of 17 missions. So anyone like Lulia who's asking why this was canceled, just check the stream description. Basically, this was going to use a lot of content from games, including the stolen build of Halo Online. So, you'll see a lot of that content in here too. It just wasn't going to be a good thing for us to do to use so much RIP content. How are the new missions going to fit into this story? Well, really this is about Banished / Oddball, but just to briefly touch on that, 3 of the missions take place during the events of Installation 04, and 3 are an epilogue about another Spartan on another planet that also fled Reach. No more ODST campaign. If it makes it any better, the new SPV3 missions will be about as long as the ODST campaign. What's up, Luke? No, the new missions are not going to tie into the Flood. Alright, so got about 5 minutes before we start. So if you're just arriving now, we're going to stop with SPV3 questions. We're going to talk about Banished and ODST Story. So I'm just going to jump straight into the missions, but basically the story was going to take place on a foreign colony world that was under control of the rebels, and Mickey would be hiding on that planet, kind of living out the last of his days after being freed from prison by the rebels. So this first mission was going to open up, and I'll kind of narrate what's going on, but the backstory is it's a rebel world, you're living among the rebels, and the Banished come to attack and raid the planet for supplies, slaves, stuff like that. So we had a couple of things we were thinking of doing it. One was to portray the UNSC in a really negative light. They're always the good guys in the story because they're fighting for humanity's existence, but we wanted to really kind of dive into the morally gray area that a lot of a lot of the stuff the United Earth government and the UNSC had done. What am I saying? Portrayed. I'm reading all these comments and thinking of different things as I talk. Alright, so 3 minutes. VSync is on. Never read the Collateral Damage comics. Hoki, I believe you're a mod in here, right? Yeah, we kind of ripped the Star Wars subtitle. First it was just going to be Banished, but we really wanted to make it known that it was a ODST sequel. It's streaming at 1080p. There's no release date for SPV3. Oddball/Banished is a canceled project, so we're just showing what we had. But a lot of stuff that you're going to see here, conceptually, is going to be reused in the SPV3 update. Cat, it is on widescreen. Is anybody else not seeing it in widescreen? 2 minutes before we start. No, this stream will be public for everybody. Darth Revan, don't worry, this stream is going to be up. Yeah, I can't stream it 21:9, unfortunately, Cat. But I'll talk a little bit more about the story and what we had in mind. I think it was going to be really cool. We had a bunch of really unique ideas. One of the things we want to do was subvert expectations, but I know subverting expectations is kind of like a dirty word now after Star Wars The Last Jedi, which was terrible. But we really wanted to flip everything you knew about Halo on its head. Raymond, it was canceled for legal reasons. Alright, so let's get started here. And hope I don't crash at all. I did run through these earlier. We disable bloom on these because we never actually fine-tuned that. And Jorge, some of these ideas are going to be in the SPV3 update. So, like I was saying earlier for people who were in here, this entire thing was based off of a game called Stubbs the Zombie, which was made by Alex Seropian after he left Bungie, and he had the rights to use the Halo engine for his own game with his own studio. Let me adjust the FOV. So what we basically did with this, the idea was take that campaign and layer Halo content and reskin it to make it its own campaign. So Stubbs the Zombie takes place in like a retro futuristic 1960s, so you see some of that with like the cop cars in here, stuff like that. Like a lot of this scenery and stuff over here was all going to be replaced with stuff from Halo 4 and Reach, as far as like Earth City assets and stuff like that. Some of this stuff didn't necessarily translate over from the Xbox rendering system, right? Like if you look at this little storm grate over here. But this is where you're going to start out. We're going to basically start each mission with little pre-rendered movies that would kind of be like the Halo Wars 2 mission briefings, or a little bit like Call of Duty does as well. So you're basically going to start here, come out, you'd hear the sirens, and you'd hear the leader of the rebels, this woman, Jayla Jonas, talking how the Banished were under attack, and for everybody to report to the city center. So at one point we had a build of this where there were grunts and stuff on the street, and you'd basically come out with your ODST pistol and start blasting them away. And it was going to have a little firefight section. This map ended up kind of becoming our test bed area. You're going to see a bunch of the weapons. I don't know if I should show you guys all now or just show them to you as we play through it, but I'm actually not sure where all the weapons are. Stubbs the Zombie did some cool stuff with shaders. Like if you look at this, there's no post-processing or bloom. This is just some of the cool shader stuff that they did with it. These little tubes over here. Over here. Basically, we're going to come over here and civilians are going to be running down the streets and you're going to have to protect them and meet up with some of the rebels over here. So here's basically almost all the guns that we had in the game. Some stuff you'll obviously remember, like our Sentinel Beam, our Needler, but then other stuff was new. Like we're going to have the beam rifle in here, based off the Halo 4 one with a little bit of edits to it. You'd see it's got a little bit more Bungie flare on it, specifically with the little crystals over here. Brute shot was in. That was returning, but most stuff wasn't. There was no shotgun, there was no human sniper. Let me go start with the human weapons. So SMG and stuff, we wanted an actual bullet hose. So this is a 90 round SMG that fires twice as fast as the regular SMG from SPV3. So it was like a real bullet hose, but even less accurate than the regular SMG. Oh, I love this. This was our battle rifle. This is one of those Halo Online assets that we were afraid of using. But slower burst, no zoom. There was at some point an idea to do an ADS system with it. The assault rifle. So this is actually returned to form for the SPV1 assault rifle, where it's more accurate, and all the weapons had a little bit of kick to them as well. And this was going to use one of the Halo Online assets as well. This asset currently in game was just a placeholder from Megashon, I believe. We had our flamethrower. I'm not sure why this was missing textures. And this is my personal favorite. We had the grenade launcher. So I have a cool little system for this. This was going to replace the rocket launcher. There was no rocket launcher in Oddball, so it was basically going to replace that. Basically, rocket launcher with arc, but if you held it down, you could bounce it off of surfaces. And I'll show you this a little bit more extensively in another mission. We had the Piercer. This was actually originally designed for Oddball and put back into SPV3. We had the Spiker, which is basically the light machine gun from SPV3, but made into a actual brute weapon. Oh, here is the sniper. This was cool. This was a 7-round DMR, which was basically as powerful as the Halo 1 pistol as a multiplayer. So 3 shots to kill a blue elite, 4 to red, 5 to white, 6 for gold. What else do we have here? Placeholder plasma caster. I always loved the plasma caster in 5. So this was kind of that. If you charge it up, it would be like a rocket launcher speed, and then be able to launch out the little smaller projectiles. Particle carbine was just using a placeholder asset. We had one from Halo Online we were going to use. Nothing changed there from SPV3 other than more battery per shot. And this was cool. This was the prototype for our plasma repeater, where the rate of fire would slow the longer you used it. But it was cool because it almost became like a plasma shotgun up close. Yeah, you're a human. And then we had the Mauler as well. And this was replacing the shotgun. So I believe it was every 2 shots from this equal the shotgun power, but you could charge it up and release the entire clip. And where's the pistol? The pistol should be somewhere over here. If not, you'll see the pistol later. So, Master Chief wasn't in this. This was a sequel to ODST where you played as Mickey. We're using Lemurius guy here. So here was like the main town. There was going to be a backstory about this statue. I forget what it is in Stubbs the Zombie, but he's like the founder of the village or whatever. But we were going to tie him into being like an insurrectionist figure. And this was going to be a this was kind of a weird mission to even figure out how we were going to do. But we wanted to have all the civilians running in from the streets and try to get to the city hall, which was going to be made to look way nicer than that. And there were going to be like gun turrets you could activate. We were going to kind of introduce you to wave after wave of different banished enemies and stuff. This fountain is one of those things that didn't make it over from Xbox well. Some of these buildings you can tell have higher res textures than the rest of them because we started to rip assets from Reach and apply them. There's all this water out here. Technically, you could go right behind here and stuff too. I don't think we ever had any plans for the mission here. This is basically going to be like a sort of firefight introduction style map, where you'd run around, complete different objectives here, and rescue as many civilians as you can. So this was the first mission from Stubbs. Now, this next one, I know I'm going to have to go into Dev Console to get this next one to work. So we were going to have the radar be something that you could pick up as an armor ability and not as a native ability for the player. So this mission is called Bridge, and this was actually not from Stubbs. This was done by a guy called Rob Opolar, and he's actually the guy who modeled the Pelican for SPV3, and he, years ago, like in 2008, was working on an ODST style project. And he never finished it, but we've had his assets and stuff for a while. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what was in this mission and how I can get into some of the play spaces. This one obviously, oh, there's the windows. Let me see if I can do this. Oh yeah, I didn't even get to show the grenades. Well, I can show the grenades a little bit later. Where would it be? Ah, there's the rooftop. But there are interiors here. Oh, here we are. Let me see if I can find the starting point of this map. Apparently I can't. Oh, no, there they are. Maybe so, it'd be difficult to do, especially since I don't have a flashlight or anything. So, you were gonna start, oh, here's some plasma rifles. So you were gonna start this mission going into a building, and your goal was to make it through all this. If I can find out where I was supposed to go. Might be on the rooftop here, hold on. Yeah, so I'm in the wrong place. So, well, I may as well start here on the roof. So, you're gonna have like an interior, you'll see more interiors. I mean, I don't want to say they're all the same, but they kind of are. But this is an area we'd be fighting on the roof, and we were gonna have part of the city in the skyline. Rob never got this mission to go that far. But the goal of this mission would be to find your way to an elevator shaft to gain access to an Oni lab. Oh, ha. There's some of the jailmen from Stubbs over here. But you can dismember this guy. Some of these guys you can dismember, some of them you can't. But we never had all that Stubbs content fully working. Like the missions and the geometry and stuff was all working, a lot of effects were working, but we were trying to recover as much as we could from Stubbs the Zombie and use it in here. This is the one mission we probably got the least amount done on, just because there was a whole bunch of different issues getting all of this working compared to the other missions, which were taken from Stubbs. Let me see if I can remember my way around here. See, without the scripts here, I forget where you're supposed to go. Because all these hallways look the same. Anyway. Eventually you would find an elevator shaft. And then you would enter into the underground Oni facility. And this is probably... This and 06 Streets are the two missions we got the most done with. How many cutscenes were completed? We actually weren't going to do many cutscenes for this. We were going to do pre-rendered mission briefings. So here you can see there's some placeholder SPV3 assets and stuff. Oh, here. This is what you guys will want to see. So there's like grunts and stuff over there. Oh yeah, there were the grenades. So we had frags, which had a different bounce mechanic than other grenades. They would blow up immediately. We had the fire bombs, which had flames that could spread. Then we had trip mines, and we had needle grenades. But anyway, so remember how I was saying like a lot of this stuff was taken from Stubbs the Zombie?
I'm dying.
They had, since it was a zombie game, there was a lot of dismemberment and things like that. So we were trying to carry over as much of that for Banished as we could. Like, we wanted to have civilians running around who get hit by spiker rounds, get their heads blown off, their arms. Like, in Stubbs, you can even rip off people's legs, or, like, tear them off. So we wanted to have there be some, like, stump bodies and stuff laying around. But that's literal. I don't think this guy, but we had a lot of the animation working too. This guy you can't dismember. That's a pretty good place to use this. So funny thing, a lot of these textures were taken from Reach. This is one of the few levels that we completely reskinned. Banished Jackal. I should have put this on, you know what? You guys can't appreciate what we were doing with the gameplay unless I do this. Just in case I get killed. Guy again real quick. For those that missed that the first time. So one thing we did with the pistol in this that was cool was that we used it in conjunction with the brute helmets, so it would take like 3 to 4 shots to knock off the helmets. Here you can see a Banished Jackal, which were cool. They had kind of metal things around the rings that were actually inspired partially by the Gungans in Star Wars. And here's the grunts, which is a mix of Reach and Halo 5 assets. So you could bounce grenades like that, a little bit different than you would in something like SPV3. Oh, that's a deal. I'm all out of grenades now? Yes, I am. You can see my stamina up there in the HUD, how it's getting more red. So this and Streets are probably the best missions for gameplay. So this is another awesome weapon we had, which was our new take on the plasma pistol, because I've always hated the overcharge shot, so the idea was to combine this with the focus rifle. So, while not all of this works, obviously it's not going to do much to the brutes because the brutes don't have energy shields. But the idea was the longer you hold the trigger down, the more it heats up. The more heat it already has built up, the longer you can sustain the beam with the overcharge. There you go. That's a good example of the thing. And you have to keep the beam focused on the enemy rather than just let it track, which was cool.
I'll get him.
So you can see the heat level on this thing, how the rate of fire changes. So you go along, I think over here there is a burst rifle, is what we were calling the new battle rifle. It was called the fire would spread. That's actually been integrated into the brute plasma pistol for heroes and looking at different ways of doing melee attacks compared to other games. Ooh, crap. This will be a good case of. Each time those needles would hit somebody, they'd explode. So again, hold this thing and then focus it on your enemy to get it. So it was like a more skillful use of the original plasma pistol while still having that shield stripping ability. Now this was cool. So the original game made use of the real-time reflections like Halo 1. So you could actually see the brutes on patrol over there. And use the mirrors to know where they were going. You could even be over here and know, no, did not see that one coming. So the other thing you might notice about animation is that sometimes the enemies use different animations. One of the things that we wanted to do was have enemies feel less like they were copy and pasted into areas. So almost every enemy had a second set of animations they could use. So sometimes brutes would be using our SPV3 animation. Sometimes they would be using Halo 2/3 animation. Let's see our asset over here. This was only a placeholder. We actually had a different one in place, but this was kind of the direction we were going for. A lot of this stuff is all placeholder, so you can see in the debug text sometimes you'll see the subtitles. We were actually building into support for this subtitle support, and we were gonna let you switch up between Espanol and Hindi as well as English. We had a whole system set up for that. So this area I never really finished working on, but the idea is you would see jackals who were technically asleep and they'd be feeding on the humans and other ones patrolling around, and you could come in and start assassinating guys, but none of that works, so we're just going to shoot them all. And the minute that all hell breaks loose, they would start shooting the rest of their prisoners. And you could hide behind these pillars, Matrix style. Yeah, the brutes could block off paths for you using the fire bombs. Oh, here I got another frag. I forgot we wanted to port that effect over too. So you can see some of these Halo 2 grunts, Halo 1 grunts being spawned. This was also going to be our introduction to the Hunter here, but it didn't work as expected because the Hunters were too big. So the Hunters also had firebomb launchers, and they could also switch into flamethrower mode with their guns. But we thought it was a cool new take that would make you have to differ in your approach of the Hunters. That was a terrible throw on my part. I want to kill this guy so I can show you guys the encounters on the way out. These guys could light the rooms on fire. The cool thing about Oddball was since we were dealing with smaller levels overall, based on the original game, we could do a lot more with effects and graphics. So push more particles in our effects and stuff like that. Obviously this fight wasn't really working out. I think at one point we had removed this too, or planning on removing it. I forget what the exact story was. And then would drop grenades instead of having the Hunter, because the Hunter guns weren't going to be a thing in this. You have this guy over here. I think just hitting him with 2 of these will kill him. Yeah, Jesus Christ. Let me see what's here in the comments. So Construct Games, this is the Banished, not the Covenant. So they wanted them to have heavier shields, and if you, let me see if I can find the Jackal. If you actually, oh, here they are. So if you look on these things, they actually have points so you could dig them into the ground. So the Jackals could hold up formations and stuff. That was kind of our idea. So then you would go into an elevator here. The original game was very weird with its transitions. Ooh, that's gonna be a nice. Holy crap, that was a good. That was a good grenade. I don't really like what we're seeing on Infinite so far, but I really don't want to talk about other Halo games. I just want to focus on this. This assault rifle, its behavior is actually now in SPV3. It's being used in the Lemuria maps for a different version of the assault rifle on that. We also had a pseudo ADS system planned for this. Some which might get reused, some which may not. Ooh, you can see that Jackal out there with the What's a star emblem everywhere? That was just something from Stubbs the Zombie they used on their police station. believe it's using Halo 2 voices for the grunts, but I forget. I know we wanted to switch everything over to using, ooh, that's the Jackal's using Plasma Caster. We never really fine-tuned the Plasma Caster, it's way OP in this. Oh, hey, you're still alive.
We're all gonna die!
I'll investigate.
But I love the Plasma Caster.
Mr. Rock.
There were some ideas for fighting humans at the end of it.
Here he is.
I also love this plasma repeater that we were gonna have. Also, if you notice, very few enemies use the weapons that they use in SPV3. Like, we wanted skirmishers to not use plasma pistols or needlers. In fact, the needler was going to be redone to be a power weapon in this. Oh, this is I never showed you guys the bathrooms earlier. So even the stalls and stubs you could open. So we were going to hide stuff in, like, the toilets. There's even water in there for when you gotta go.
Around. They're everywhere.
We didn't have to do anything for those bathrooms. Those bathrooms were all there from stubs. So here's where you finally reach the jail cell. The objective of this mission was Jesus Christ. The objective here was to reach an Oni agent who knew of a way to get a message off planet because the Banished were jamming everything. The idea was that Oni used to have a presence on the planet, and if you were able to find out where they kept all their technology and their stash of communication devices, you could put a message out off-world and ask for backup from either the Insurrection or the UNSC to come help repel the Banished invasion. So I don't know why this brute is locked in here. I played through this a little bit earlier today, just looking at stuff, and wasn't exactly sure what he was doing in there. But the cool thing here is if you open up these jail cells, I think we were at one point going to have prisoners in here who would be able to help you, or let them out. Maybe this guy was just placeholder for them. But then on your way out, you could hide in these little jail cells. And so once you got in here, like, this mission was basically kind of Pillar of Autumn in that you're just going through narrow corridors. But once you get here, you would get the Oni guy out of here, and then the power would go out, and it would be all dark like the Maw was. So this is basically be our mix of the Maw and Pillar of Autumn all mixed into one level. So this was another cool thing too. In Stubbs a Zombie, you could remove your hand and go crawling around all different surfaces. So there was an air vent system here, and I thought, what if you could clamber up into it? Please tell me this still works. No, that doesn't work. Oh, that's too bad. So, as a placeholder, there was an infection form in here. And you could basically drive him like you could drive our sprinting biped. 1 second. Sorry, work call. So anyway, you could crawl through these vents, and there would be some alternate paths you could take as getting around here. And on your way out, you would have your first encounter with an elite. So keep in mind, this would be all dark, like mall level dark. And there you would have the elite come in, and after you would lower his shield, he would put on his active camo. The AI could dynamically engage their active camouflage and switch weapons. So he'll switch now to use camouflage and a plasma rifle. So elites were going to get a major upgrade. Never mind, are you depowered from the SPV3, but the elites would get some upgrades too. Mainly the ability to dynamically switch into their different forms. The elite is obviously using still the SPV3 model. But then on your way out, with the try to keep in mind, this would be all dark, like mall levels dark, and we would have like fires in places. So basically, you were gonna fight elites on the way out. Crap. Yeah, always be careful of the elites because you never know when they're gonna have their active camouflage on. And then he'll retreat if they're using the carbine. Let's get that in there. So if you try to go out this way, right now there's just a gate here, but there would be like a burning fire, so you couldn't pass. So doors that were locked on the way in would now be open. So you'd be going through new areas that you had before. Pigeon, no, the elites were all prepped to go in game, but they never got in. There was some really cool attention to detail in Stubbs the Zombie. Like if you look over here, you can see this cup of coffee has steam coming out of it. That was all stuff that translated over in the Xbox. Also, these computer screens are super cool. We should actually use some of this in the mall. So somebody in the Discord remind me later to make use of that shader. Well, we will do an update video on SPV3 at some point, but it's not on my to-do list. Right now, it's just working on it. We're giving it a big visual overhaul, so a lot of it's dependent on that. So the grunts will be shooting at you through the fire over there. I got my 90 round SMG. So you have to do a little bit of... burst rifle. So if you look in here, see this air vent? This is one of the areas you could drop down into if you went through that air vent and hadn't killed that infection form. This game is completely canceled. SPV3 update is still in the works, and that's our only project. one of the few elites that uses the Needler. The Needler got upgraded to a power weapon in this. You see another air vent right up there too. You are just smaller. It's a bit painful playing through this just because we really were looking forward, and this whole project was an idea around the like right when we were finishing up part 1 of SPV3. So we had been looking forward to working on this for quite a while, and then to kind of realize what was going to happen to Halo Online and the trouble they had gotten themselves into. This was months before they got the takedown. I mean, it was writing was on the wall for anybody remotely informed of what they were doing, which wasn't most people. But we knew they were gonna have to get taken down once we determined how some of the builds of the game were gotten. So we decided it'd be better to pull the plug. And it was also only so far we could go with publicity with this too, compared to another SPV3 update. So here, there was going to be another fight. I forget exactly what we had planned. We had something here planned with elites, where you'd be in this room and all the doors would be open where they were all previously locked. And you'd have to make your escape. Actually, you don't even have to go through the same way. We actually had shortcuts. So, this is the way you came in before. So I forget what we were going to have come in over here. But we were going to have something. You know what it is? I think all the Marines that, or all the civilians you found were all going to be dead. And the elites would be in here with like swords and shit. But then you could just come this way. So we were gonna mostly use Halo Online assets, and that's the primary reason why it mattered, because we didn't have the manpower to redo anything. We also didn't just want to take our existing assets and do anything with them. Also, we're using a lot of Disney's content here too. Stubbs the Zombie is now owned by Disney, and the whole, you know, skeleton of this game is Stubbs the Zombie, which was another problem. So then this would load you into the next mission, and this mission was super cool. This one was called, well, the 04 Farm. But over here, there were going to be cornfields, and I have the scripts working here, although we never added the corn back in. The corn was done a different way in Stubbs the Zombie using a tag type that doesn't exist in Halo CE. But basically, there would be giant cornfields here. And you'd be able to retreat into the cornfields, and they would lose track of you. So, let me see. I believe if I fire this, no, they can't hear this because it's silence. But if I use this, they'll all hear the sound and they'll shoot. And then you could go back into the cornfields and take them. Keep in mind, I can just see them right now, but you'd have to like peek your head out of the cornfield. And once you're out over here, they can all see you. Once you go into the cornfields, they can only see your last known position. So you could bait them into the cornfields and then assassinate them. But shooting or revealing your location would mean that they would know where you are. In Construct games, that's not entirely accurate. We knew that a crackdown was going to come on El Dorito, and we knew that we would likely be targeted as part of that. Just because of the, you know, well, I wouldn't even call it legally gray nature of El Dorito. But all the stuff that was going into the Halo Online stuff was clearly illegal and going to get taken down by Microsoft. And we didn't want to get swirled up in that.
I see a bad guy. Here's one for ya.
So, this funny thing about this mission is it's inspired by that Call of Duty mission, all gillied up. Interesting thing, when Call of Duty 4 came out, that's the mission I got fed up with the game and quit, and I've never really liked that mission, but everything I've heard about it, I do like. So you're going to see a little bit of that coming up.
I found one.
And this is broken over here. Something wrong with the fence bitmaps. Not sure what went on here to break that alpha channel.
It's Blair's Road.
So even some of the audio carries weight. I'm not sure where that banjo is coming from. I don't think they even had an audio source for it. Oh, no it is. Unless that's a refrigerator. Oh, that's a refrigerator or a speaker. You guys see our debug HUD that we use in a bunch of stuff over there on the right, which explains how some of these systems work. This thing has recharging ammo, a heat level. So technically with this you can fire off rounds before it fully recharges, but discharges the battery and also overheats at the end. Because we don't want to mess with UA4. So here's where the part of the be all gilly up. So you would be with the guy you rescued from the Oni jail site in the previous mission. And you'd see these towers, and the idea was in the distance you'd be able to see the main city that you fight in. So you'd have to escort him over to each of these AA gun towers. Or whatever they would, not AA gun towers. But they would be, you know, artillery positions. And at one point we were thinking about using the blister backs here. Like there'd be blister backs all stationary, and you'd have to go over here, and he would be underneath here setting up demolition charges, and his guys would come running over the hills. You'd be sniping them and defending him, and you'd have to go to the 4 cannons. But I really like the idea of using the blister backs. But the idea was that you weren't going to destroy them as soon as you set the charges, because that would alert the Banished to your position. So you were going to leave the charges there and wait for later, and then later you would see the city under siege and realize that everybody in the city is dying because you didn't blow the cannons. Not that you really had much of a choice, because blowing the cannons would have brought the entire Banished army down on you. Yeah, Mickey should be the one setting up charges, but we wanted you to be shooting. Doing the all gillied up stuff. So then you would come through here and get to the farmhouse. Now this area was cool. So we would have jackals like patrolling on like the lower roof, but you could either go through this main dirt path over there to the house, go through the outhouse over here, or come up here into the barn. And there would be guys that you could fight, and you could get a sniper rifle and start fighting everybody here at the house, and Banished would come running out of the house and stuff like that. It's an original story based off of Halo 3 ODST and Halo New Blood. you'd be able to join here. And kind of the backstory over here was that the Oni officer would bring you to this farmhouse, which is where there would be a bunch of Oni guys who had previously set up a station pretending to be really radical insurrectionists. So this American flag over here was going to be replaced with the UNSC logo, but it was going to be a skeleton of the bird covered in blood. And it was basically a front, you know, pretend to be super radical insurrectionists, but actually be using this as a base for the UNSC. And inside this house, there would be some sort of transmitter that you would use to get a message out, if it had the right power source. I also wanted to have a jackal up here with a beam rifle or plasma caster. So here is the house. They have some pretty cool stuff with subs. Now this didn't work, but you could actually break these windows and stuff. And so could these, like they would splinter in. So as you were going through this house and as you went into rooms, like brutes would come bursting through these wooden doors and send the splinters flying out. And stuff like that. Like you could be walking over here and all of a sudden like the store could explode and a brute would come out. It was gonna be, you know, all sorts of creepy stuff. Dead bodies, weapons stockpiled like some crazy militia guy. Like you hear about those people, you know, who think, you know, one day the commies are coming or whatever. Or Obama's coming. So they arm up, thinking that somebody's gonna come to, like, you know, the government's gonna take their liberty or whatever bullshit. But yeah, this is gonna be those types of, like, you know, crazy type of people. Or at least it was gonna be a front for that. I think at one point we're gonna have drones fly up over here too out of this little opening. And after getting the retriever, you were going to get a message from the Oni guy that the Banished were coming, and you'd have like jackals breaking in through these windows and stuff, skirmishers leaping up, breaking them down, and you would be up here. And you could either jump out the windows onto the ground and probably get killed, or make your escape through here. Although there's an idea if you jump down here. I mean, it's kind of fun to jump down here, but the idea was that like there'd be enemies on all sides, or whatever, who would chew you up. To make a quick escape, and then you would come out over here and you would have lost radio contact with the Oni guy you rescued earlier, and you'd find his body like impaled by spikes here into the side of the farmhouse. And then you would have to, you know, do your fight out of here, hide behind this stuff, which would obviously all be replaced, stuff like that, and you'd hear the cannons going off in the distance bombarding the city. Yeah, cohesion and the art style was not something we even had really started to do. Like, a lot of these guns were never even things that we were sure we were going to use. Like, this pistol was going to be ditched for the Halo 5 model. You're going to have access to the hog here. And you'd hit the detonator and all these guns would blow up. Stuff. I forget, I don't think we actually really had this whole escape sequence fully planned. Like, I kind of wanted to do a sort of Warthog run, but I wasn't sure how we could do it in a way that would be good. I know we wanted to have you be able to ram that gate open. Oh, so funny thing, in Stubbs the Zombie, there's sheep in here, and we were going to have sheep that you could shoot, too. Or sheep that would be killed by the Banished and, like, be laying on the ground bloody and stuff like that. Like the brutes were eating the sheep. And then we were going to actually do a cinematic where there would be, like, brutes and stuff over here, and you'd go through and ram them and go through them. So this was kind of a bullshit mission over here. On your way back, you would hear the grunts were converting a biodome that was used for farming into a methane lab. So it was a little bit of a bullshit mission, but it was still kind of cool. Here you can see all the jackals with their colored armor and stuff. So it was cool. So with the Banished aesthetic, we wanted these guys to be using silvers and bronzes and reds. So if you look at this jackal over here, he's got the red plumage, or plumage, whatever the hell it's called on top. He's got silver armor, bronze skin, bits of gray and black in him. And then over here, the majors have like tiny bits of gold on them and bronze, which matches up with some of the Banished aesthetic that was released in documents by 343. So at one point we talked about finding a way to do jetpacks, so you could jetpack up to these levels, but there were going to be jackals on patrol over there and stuff like that. So I think this one is pretty much mostly empty. Oh, hey, Killa, you're in here. Yeah, Killa was gonna try to do this whole jetpack thing over here. It was his idea because I couldn't think of anything good. And there used to be a dome in the sky, but it broke with the conversion of stuff to from Xbox to PC. There's a lot of walking here. And I still get lost here sometimes. So we're gonna have a little firefight thing in here. These screens got broken on the export too, but these screens were cool. They would show you different parts of the level and stuff. I'm not sure if we ever had a way that we were gonna do it. There's a lot of cool shaders and stuff in Stubbs of Zombie. Like, look at these buttons over here flashing. This is all using Halo's renderer, but you never see anything like that in Halo 1, or anything used that way in Halo 1. Man, so we've been streaming for almost an hour now? About halfway done through the game. Yeah, so Spring was actually not going to be included in this. Because Stubbs the Zombie is a smaller game, it really suited the idea of a slower ODST and more methodical, slower gameplay. So Sprint wasn't something that was going to really work with it. Yeah, so in the lore, Mickey was in prison, but he was going to have been liberated to the start of this. And there was a big plot twist later in the game. We realized he wasn't actually liberated by the insurrection or escaped. That he was actually sent here on a secret mission by Oni. Because we haven't really talked much about the characters yet in this, other than the rebel leader, Jayla Jonas was her name. And then there was Sergeant Sakine. So when I said we were talking about dark things the UNSC had done, there was part of what we were thinking was how would, like, social things that socially affect people today, how would those work in the future? So there was idea that at some point turn of the century, the humanity had just flat out committed genocide against Muslims, which, you know, there's people today that are, you know, racist and think that they hold society back, and we kind of wanted to go with a really dark plot that in the Halo world that actually did happen. If you notice, there's never any Muslim or Arabic characters in any of the Halo media. There's like one or two. So the idea was this guy, Sergeant Sahim, was someone who had reclaimed his old religion and identity and ethnicity and called himself the Arrow because he was always a sniper. And then Jayla Jonas was a woman who didn't want to serve in the military but also couldn't have children. The idea was after the war was done with the Covenant, UNSC always wanted people to repopulate, so there were incentives for people to start families. And if you couldn't start a family, you had to serve the state in some other way. So soldier, scientist, whatever. You also notice in majority of Halo lore, you never hear about people just going about having happy days. Everybody serves something. Even in Sadie's story, in ODST, it's all about her dad working for the Numavata Transport Department or whatever it is. And Jayla Jonas and a lot of the rebels were people who just didn't want to devote their life to working for the UEG and the UNSC. And there was also a plot with Mickey, because for anyone who ever read Halo New Blood, a lot of people questioned why Mickey would betray Buck and Romeo and all that, and they perceived it to be a plot hole. I forget if I'm going the right way over here or the wrong way. But we sort of had a very minor subplot that Mickey was swayed over by the insurrectionist leader, not the insurrectionist leader, sorry. The insurrectionist agent in New Blood who swayed him over and kind of manipulated Mickey's emotions and feelings for him, and we were going to reveal that Mickey was actually gay. And that the insurrection had targeted him, knowing that he had no way of having a partner being in military service, and try to emotionally manipulate him into joining their cause through love. And there's a few instances in New Blood that hint to some sort of storyline like that, specifically with the rebel leader talking about how Mickey loved the insurrectionist Spartan who blew himself up and almost killed June. And then there's some other references in there too, how Mickey became withdrawn when Buck was with when Buck had his romance with Dare and Romeo was romancing with the ladies on all the colony worlds. Like, it's very subtle in the text there, but we had a whole bunch of different stuff about how everybody who joined the insurrection was unhappy with life under the UNSC for one reason or other, whether it was the role they were expected as a woman to repopulate the galaxy, whether it be due to genocide against particular religions or groups of people like Sergeant Zahim, or people who just felt lonely and were vulnerable to manipulation like Mickey, solely based on his sexual orientation. Or rather, his sexual orientation in this world, that post-war world of the UNSC, where individual comforts and happiness weren't important as much as servitude for the state. So here's where I was talking about really cool stuff with the grenade launcher. This is where you would visit the bombed out city.
I got you back.
So after you saw those cannons going off in the previous mission, or rather two missions ago before the biodome, you would then come here and see the wreckage. Hey, what's up, Japheth? So here's a good example of being able to use the grenade bounce. That was a little bit too much. But learning with surfaces you can bounce this off is pretty cool. So over here where you're kind of bottlenecked in, it turned into a cool thing to do. Just take this and land it behind them. I love this grenade launcher. You're that grunt. Grenade, grenade! Like I said, a lot of stuff in this was well suited. A lot of stuff from Stubbs is well suited with the smaller player. As the ODST, you could hide behind these barriers that they had already done for human scale characters. I think the stream's just lagging for you. I'm having a few places to slow down, and I'm not sure why. But nothing that significant. There's always some instances in this where it's trying to render shaders that don't exist in Halo 1 that can cause some issues. At least in Sapien. I don't know if it does it in game. Or if my frame rate's just high enough in game to not really notice it until I stream. So here was a diner. Wet weenie, fountain of love, salty pickle, wet burger. There's all sorts of inappropriate jokes in Stubbs the Zombie. Spanky's famous.
Why did you do that?
Oh, you know what I bet is causing that jittering? Okay, that should fix it for you guys. It'll be 30 FPS, but it should fix a bunch of stuff.
Hope this isn't a trap.
Or is that jittering now worse for you guys? Oh wow, I just saw that on the stream. I have to stream on another one. No, I just don't think XSplit likes Chimera's interpolation. I just turned off 60 FPS, but I think that made it worse. Plus, there's a lot of those broken shaders in here too, which are probably causing issues. So this is the other mission I actually got a lot of stuff done on. Yeah, maybe I'll switch to OBS for the future. You can see a bunch of these bomb down cars and stuff here. You can see there's a sniper in the background over there. They didn't have the lens flares added in like the SPV3 ones, although that was planned. It was actually be integrated into their helmet rather than gun. But we had some weird issue with that. I'm trying to remember what it was that stopped us from successfully doing it. But yeah, elites were really going to get a big upgrade in this. You can see some of the stuff printing out about switching back and forth. Oh, and there wanted to switch into rage mode. So check him out as he comes. He doesn't have his sword, but yeah, we're gonna be able to pull out the arm shields and stuff. Stream still down for you guys? So in here, you'll be able to run. I think we're gonna have weapons stuff like crap. Who's over here? Yeah, run. I'm not sure if it's still here, but there was a minefield. Oh, we got a burst right. See, we wanted you to have all those brutes there. Log in the street, and we were going to let you come in here and get the flank on them while Marines, or not Marines, rather Rebels, would attack from the other side. Guy's helmet. I think there's a problem with some brutes with the Halo 2 animations not having the helmets. I mean, this fight isn't, yeah, I mean, if these guys had their helmets coming off the way they should, this fight would have been a lot more fun to watch. But, alas, this is still like pre-alpha stuff. Oh crap, there's 2 jackals up there with plasma casters? I thought there was supposed to be 1. And I am out. There are gonna be some hold your ground firefight things over here too. Like you could go into this building over here. And there'd be guys coming down the street and you'd be able to pick them off. What's this grunt doing over here? So you go into the library and come out over here, and this would be another firefight section. You'd find Marines trying to assault this Banished position. Oh, so notice how cool these lights are up here on these spotlights. They're pretty sweet. But you'd come in here, you'd fight them. Try to hold your ground over here for, well, a wave of guys came in, and then hunters would bust down this door. Door is going to flood them the other way. When you'd fight the hunters, and then a couple more waves would come in, and you'd be able to take up position up on these walls. Fight them. Then eventually it would say, we've got this, Mickey, like, go on inside. And then this was going to be the lab. Oh, I can show you the climber in here, I think. Did I ever add it in here? Oh, no, there was another vent over here. Oh, well. But there was a bunch of stuff here that come in. Ooh, I don't know why that's all popping. Man, there's some weird cube map stuff going on here, too. But you'd be able to come in here. Man, why are all the objects popping? But you'd come in here. The first part of this was just kind of be more generic hallways. Find your way upstairs. Technically, you could always jump through here, but you're not supposed to. We're going to do something about that. No flashlights were working in these builds. Some of these places are brighter than the others. So there were newspapers in the original stubs that were just there. But we were going to have there be newspapers and leaflets and collectibles, sort of like the terminals, but a little bit less writing intensive, that you'd be able to find out like insurrectionist propaganda, UNSC data, pads, stuff like that. This is actually using a lot of reach textures too from the Pillar of Autumn level. There's just some really cool light effects they have. Like, look at some of these lens flares and stuff. They did some really cool stuff in stubs. Here's where you could have jumped over earlier, like I said. Make your way to the second level. Here's more bathrooms. Open the stalls. I think we need the water. Now the water is glass in this because the materials are all different in stubs than they are to CE. Man, I am surprised there's so much object popping going on here. Oh, you know why it's happening? Hold on. I forgot because the LODs all got broken. There we go. It's all the levels of detail for it. Alright, now you can see more stuff more clearly. This is the way I came, I believe. Maybe this was the way I came. that was the way I came. I got backtracked. I actually don't think we ever really had encounters fully planned out for this area, to be honest. It was always, I don't know, I always had mixed feelings on this area. I always thought it looked visually cool, but... It wasn't that it wasn't worth to make it all from scratch, it's that the levels are ripped from another game too. It's ripped from Stubbs the Zombie. Everything in this was going to be use ripped art assets and ripped content. We just, in the end, when we saw the heat that El Dorito was setting themselves up for, we thought it was best to avoid it. Lots of really cool lighting effects in here. Some cool encounter here with guys up above shooting down at you. No, flood were never planned. Not a big fan of the flood. Yeah, this was entirely Lua dependent. You'll see some, if you go back in the stream later, you'll see some more stuff regarding the Lua. Specifically with the, oh, I never got to show you guys the proximity mines. Those are only on one mission. Actually, they may not even be in this. The proximity mines are weird. Like, that's a cool lens flare up there. You know, I don't even remember applying the shader work, but that looks pretty cool. This was using a lot of Reach Industrial stuff. Unfortunately, this ended was really looking like it was just going to be another corridor shooter. I couldn't really figure out what to do with the Banished in this level to make it interesting, but I also never really did much with this level other than just get it up and running out of Stubbs. Stubbs the Zombie. For people who are confused, all these levels are from Stubbs the Zombie. Now this was going to be cool. There was a boss fight in the original game here, but we were going to do something similar. You were going to hit each of these buttons and it was going to build up a charge in here to send out like an energy pulse or whatever to send a message out to alert the other humans that the Banished were under attack, and while it would build up, you would have a wave of guys come in. Oftentimes brutes with energy shields, engineers, stuff like that. And after one of these things built up, it would let out an EMP and break off the brute armor. So you basically have to survive against overwhelming odds until the power pulse went off. And you would have to do that for each one of these. And then the game, that you beat that mission. And this is cool. This is, so now we're on 08 Mall. Which was actually 2 missions and stuff that we combined into one. So now we have enemies here again. So Stubbs the Zombie is a game built on the Halo engine. But it's not Halo. But we were able to convert all the assets over into this. That includes the level and encounters too, like all this geometry, all the AI paths. No, see, SPV3 is all from the original game or original assets. This was all based on other games' assets.
This is Andrew Monday. The police require your cooperation while they attend to a minor disturbance.
So this is the cool parking garage, and we were gonna have like some of the typical like cars that you expect from Halo in here, and not these like ones from Stubbs the Zombie. Man, I really should have given these guys plasma pistols when I was just plopping these guys in here. Talking about cool shit, you can see how they use lens flares on these windows to make it look like the light from outside is coming in, even though it's not. There's an alternate path over here. You saw the other path up there. I don't know if you would consider the stuff that didn't come with custom edition stolen. It's all Halo 1. It's just a different fork of the game. Mines aren't working in this build. Yeah. So the crawl put it best. Halo Custom Edition is an expansion to the original game that requires you to own it. So you already have ownership of the campaign content. You're just finding a different way to use it. Compare that to El Dorito, where the build that it was designed for was taken off the server without permission and had all the copy protection from it. Or rather, not copy protection, but distribution protection stuff. This was cool. You'd be able to see, I wanted you to be able to see like more citizens running and the Banished blocking them off and just massacring them and mowing them down. Like whole death squads, stuff like that. One second, takes a bit. But yeah, there was gonna be some cool stuff where you'd like watch all the people you couldn't save from here. So this was supposed to be a bank, and you were going to see like people in here huddled. I forget if we were going to show them being massacred when you came in or what. I mean, I was all for showing people dying in this thing and having their limbs ripped off. For people who've been in the stream since Mission 3, you could see how the heads, arms, legs could be pulled off of the civilians. Man, now this part's all cool. So you could have encounters here, but then there were also these doors and stuff. But you can go up these little paths and fight. And we were going to have Sergeant Saheem with you over here. So if you took the lower path, Saheem would take the upper path and then meet up with you. And if you took the upper path, Saheem would draw the fire on the lower. It was going to be sort of like the encounters in Gears of War. Like where Marcus can take one path and Dom can take the other. And then they meet up. All the levels except for one are ripped from Stubbs the Zombie. Rebel without a pulse. Perfect timing to ask that question. So you and Saheem would be going through here. There'd be like, you know, all sorts of enemies. We'd probably throw a few cars in here for cover. I was thinking this is funny. There's all sorts of like dick jokes in this. Oh yeah, I put this sign in here. Evacuate the city of New Mombasa. Meant to obviously rewrite that. So here was another one where you have those tubes up top where you could take the fight on the streets, or you could go in here, or Saheem would go in here. I'll take the upper path because it's more interesting. So you could be up here, Saheem could be up here, and you could have your fights, and then you could go into that one too. Or you could jump down and mess up the whole thing. So here's the second part of the mission. Yeah, someone feel free to kick YouTube dump. I don't believe he's arguing in good faith here. When you have Halo Custom Edition, you have a license for Halo 1 because you need a CD key. So you own the content that you're using there. It's like buying a movie. You own the movie and then ripping it to your computer so you can play it on your iPod or your iPhone. Back in the old days before the digital copies. Doesn't really matter that the Halo Custom Edition doesn't come with the tags or not. You already own that campaign content, and it's yours to do what you want with it. If you're downloading the maps for downloading campaign maps for Custom Edition, you're still using the content that you purchased when you got your Halo PC disc. So this is another cool shader thing. I was saying they did cool stuff with the stub shaders. So this mission took place about halfway through Stubbs the Zombie, and we were trying to use it far later in the game, which doesn't really make sense that the city would be destroyed in that one mission, but here it's okay. But and we'd have the mall over here. Again, cool shaders here on the floor. All the BSP shaders here are all based on the original Stubbs the Zombie stuff.
We all know what it's like to crave bacon, but we also know how hard it is to keep a girlish figure. That's why.
So you would fight through here. I don't think there's that many AI for the rest of the game. Unfortunately, mission 06 and 03 are the ones that have most of the AI.
I mean suit. Come to Fairy Godfather formal wear. For suits, tuxedos.
We couldn't edit the geometry just like with SPV3. We can't edit the original geometry. But everything was going to get a fresh coat of paint. And new geometry applied over old geometry where possible for like signs and stuff.
Where our entire stock of unmentionables is on sale. If you're the sort of woman who has to dress like that, Wanton Strumpet has everything you need.
And I forget there was going to be a boss fight here, but you were going to disarm the jammer in this mission that was blocking the signal. And then here's the power plant, which was the final thing you need to do to get a message off world. Or maybe there was something about the Mac gun. Yeah, all the textures were going to be replaced. This is almost, other than mission 03 and a few other spots, this is all using the original Stubbs the Zombie textures, which are even lower res than Halo 1's. Yeah, so we actually didn't do anything with the BSPs, Vuff. This is all straight ripped from Stubbs the Zombie. No, we aren't going to be releasing this for download. There's too many headaches from doing so. This is cool, all these little power generators and stuff. Man, why is this gun out of ammo? Well, I mean, at this point, I feel like the game was probably going to get a little bit too repetitive. There's only so many dark, dreary interiors you can go into, and so this thing over here is broken. You could blow that window down. Except it's not, technically it's not glass right now. Yeah, there wasn't going to be a silenced SMG. I don't really have that much interest in Bungie's IPs. I guess Destiny's a standard campaign could be kind of cool, but I am not a Destiny fan. Okay, we'll go through here, press a bunch of buttons. I really like the aesthetic of this level. I just feel at this point things are getting a little bit tired. Its exterior area, and we were gonna have like drop ships come in here and everything and deliver guys while you powered up the generator. In Stubbs a Zombie, you spend your time here peeing in these things to poison the water supply. It's kind of weird. You have it here, and then in here you would have to activate these 3 generators. There's a lot of going around pressing buttons for this mission. Some of the mission design in Stubbs is repetitive and not that great. I mean, it did what it was supposed to for Stubbs a Zombie. I'm not sure how well this all would have turned out for us, but we were kind of banking on doing good enough combat. So, Stubbs a Zombie, I mean, you can look it up on YouTube, but basically it's a third-person game where you play as a zombie, run around, eat people's brains, get revenge on somebody in the town. Huh, I must have broken this. There we go. So, there we go. So there was an outside section that we weren't going to use, but this was going to be cool. This was going to be you fighting across the bridge to get to your warthog. There would be like sentinels, stuff like that. They're going to be engineer. We were going to bring the sentinels in by having the engineers control them. So if you shot the engineers and killed them, they would release the sentinels. All right, so here's the last mission. This one was kind of classic ODST. Nighttime, dark, rainy. Where's my water? Or my lemonade? And there's no encounters here too. We had some cool stuff here planned though. There was going to be a mantis. And we also were going to have the grunt goblin in this, so there'd be a few parts where you and a bunch of rebels would take on the grunt goblins. And this is the same environment as the first mission too. How large are these map files? I can check for you later. You have these cool little crater holes that you could hide in. Oh, these are cool. These are landmines. I'm pretty sure I walked over. Yep, get blown up. Luckily, I have Deathless on. Funny thing about these is these ported directly over from Stubbs the Zombie for the most part. Except the animations are broken, which is why the mines don't disappear after going. I mean, everything in this is copyrighted. Every level in this game belongs to Disney. The assets are Halo 5, Halo Online. I don't think there's anything Halo Wars 2 that made it into here. Oh, this was cool. So, this was actually something me and Late Night Gaming had planned. Because if you've been in the stream for a while and I was telling you how women were required to reproduce, or basically being financially forced to reproduce, to repopulate the colonies and stuff. You were gonna come over here, and there, you would see like a Banished camp, and you'd be able to drop down. If you snuck up behind the grunts, they'd see like a billboard, and it would be like a woman standing with like 2 kids at her side, nursing a baby, and the grunts would be like, "Whoa, look at the food nipples on that one!" And then you could kill the grunts. And Late Night Gaming was gonna voice the grunts. He does a really good grunt. But yeah, we described the story of this sort of being a political thriller in the same way that Captain America: The Winter Soldier was. How it's able to deal with political issues and things of that nature, dressed up in a fantasy setting. And also, I guess, well, it wasn't the intent at the time, but how Black Panther ended up being very similar. So we wanted to have like Mantis Goblin fights in this mission and stuff too, which never really got that far, but. Go through some of these hallways. I don't know, I timed him out. Got more stuff over here. This mission is kind of repetitive too, so we're just trying to think of ways to mix it up, whether it be have like one part that's standard combat, then against some vehicles, then you against stuff, then you against like grunt goblins, then you and a mantis. Yeah, we definitely weren't trying to do a typical Halo story. Like I said earlier when I went into details on it, we wanted it to be very subversive, and not in the Last Jedi kind of way where it's disappointing, but put a different spin and perspective on the UNSC and humanity and the characters and the rebels. So remember those lens flares I pointed out in the first mission? You can see them over here too. Here's that door you would have fought to defend earlier, and where you would have had, where I was showing all those weapons earlier. This is cool purple lighting. I wonder where this comes from. I don't know. Alright, this is gonna be a kind of weird mission to script and populate. Obviously, this one barely got anywhere. Second. So here you are. This is where you had that first encounter in the game. And I know here I think we're gonna have 2 grunt goblins here, and whatever. Like the Banished camp was gonna be in the center over here, and there were gonna be like several goblins, and rebels are gonna be running from all these areas. And we're gonna have rebels at DMRs on the rooftops, shooting in. This was gonna be kind of like a cool, like last stand of the Banished fight, as they have the rebel leader in City Hall. So for people who were here listening to stuff about the story earlier, Mickey was freed from his prison and escaped, but you were gonna find out here. This is gonna be like the final encounter space. Jayla Jonas is up at the top. Banished are protecting her, and you would have to fight your way through all of this. It's very Gears of War-ish actually, but from that last game, we had to fight to get to Adam Phoenix. But what we were gonna do is, so you think all this time, like, the idea was that the player, you know, you kind of like Mickey at this point. You like the rebels. You don't think, you know, you're kind of at this point where, oh, like, maybe the rebels had the right idea. The rebels aren't so bad. The UNSC, like, are actually pretty terrible. I'm glad that Mickey defected and he joined the insurrection. And then you'd come in here, and you'd find Jayla Jonas, and it would be a cutscene, and you'd see Mickey just blow her head off. And then he would radio Dare and say that he completed his mission. He's ready for evac. And then there was going to be several alternate endings. One was going to be of Dare radioing back and saying, like, do you really think we were ever going to let a traitor like you back into the fold? He's like, no one's coming to get you. And then you would have to fight the rebels who would come in to avenge their leader. Or if you had gathered intel through the game, you could say, well, I have this, like, document, that document, whatever. I have this intelligence. If you want it, you better come and get me. And she would eventually be like, copy that. And you would have to fight your way out against the humans. And if you died, that was your only life, and that's how the game would end, with you being killed. And if you succeeded, you would get to the Pelican, and there you would have Agent Locke waiting for you, and stuff like that. So those were going to be the 3 endings. Now these shaders are kind of cool too. These are all still just standard Halo shaders. These freaked me out the first time I saw them, and how they're like holograms, like hologram Pokemon cards or whatever. But after that, you would have your 3 possible endings. Either you die fighting endless waves of enemies, you die escaping, or you succeed escaping. And that was the game. So I'll hang around for like 10 more minutes of questions. This is the first mission again. It loops all the way back to the start, so you can see this area as I saw it in the last. So I'll just let people ask questions in the chat for maybe about 10 minutes more, and then I'm gonna end this stream because it's gone on for 2 hours. What Nathan asked. So what is coming over into SPV 3.2? A lot of stuff is going over into Lemuria. Mainly, well, for all of SPV 3.2, this version of the Piercer is the new one. A battle rifle that behaves like this one is going into the Lemuria maps. Same as the assault rifle and the SMG, as well as the pistol. I'm currently talking to Installation 01 guys about possibly using their grenade launcher. But we haven't worked anything out yet, but I would like to get this grenade launcher back to replace the rocket launcher for the Lemuria maps. A lot of the weapon ideas we're trying to fit into Lemuria, since it's a different ship on a different planet. Let's see, can you kill Mick at the end? Well, you're playing Mickey, so. Why did you want to tell, I guess you say, why do you want to tell the story you described for this game? I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to do something where we could mix everything up that you typically thought about Halo. You know, fighting, I liked, when Halo Online first got shown, I liked all the weapon variants that they showed, and I thought it was interesting how, like, you could do, you know, very different yet familiar variants of the weapons from typical Halo, and how you can mix it up. So that was kind of the first part of the idea. And then also we knew that we had this whole game of Stubbs the Zombie here, so doing it on Insurrectionist Planet or Human City was something, you know, that was kind of a given. And it just all sort of came together. All these different ideas kind of culminated in being able to do a story about the insurrection, and the Banished were obviously a nice new take on the sort of tired Covenant. The other thing was, for me, like, how do I make the Covenant more interesting than I currently had done in SPV3? And I didn't really see a lot of stuff to do, so I thought being able to shuffle all the deck chairs using the Banished would be a fun idea. So Lemuria was a sort of campaign expansion add-on done by a few guys. I think it came out in 2011 or 2012, and it was meant to feel like an expansion to the original Halo, so we're now using it to do an expansion to SPV3. So it's almost sort of like a spin-off / ODST style thing, but for SPV3. And it's about a different ship and a different group of Covenant, so we can mix things up in ways that we couldn't in SPV3. Yeah, no, this whole game you're playing is Mickey, Nicholas. Man, I love this grenade launcher. There will be new stuff in SPV 3.2, mostly isolated to the Lemuria missions. I could just like bounce these grenades off the walls all day. What do you mean take control completely away? Oh wow, look at the light range on that thing. That's not good. More like the shaders over there. Having a problem. Don't really want to talk about Lemuria that much right now. I'll jump back into 03 jail for anyone who missed it earlier. I'll do a couple more questions. Cheats are disabled in SPV3 because that's the only way to make it work. Wow, is that really my last checkpoint in here? People were talking about gore earlier. Some of the stuff that you could. See all the gooey bits. Yeah, there was going to be terminals and original writing stuff for Oddball, but not like SPV3. There was going to be more collectibles in the world you could find, like posters to inspect, things like that, diaries, people you could talk to. I do like these grenades. Maybe I'll bring these back to the area. Man, I really like that brute shield effect. I really need to reproduce that. No, it'll super combine on them. Were allies gonna be more limited? So that's a good question. So the allies were gonna be in parts of the game, but you're gonna mainly see civilians. Sergeant Sahim was gonna have the revive system that we currently now have integrated into SPV3 for hero characters. Lemuria's terminals are going to be redone to be like, I'll do another stream about Lemuria sometime. Yeah, Kaleidoscope, this whole thing will remain up. I'm about to end it in about 5 minutes. You can see where the enemies are in the mirrors. See how big the brutes are compared to you in this. Unless they're crouched down. Take a look in the mirror. There's working mirrors in a couple parts of SPV3, and some of the lakes on Solid Cartographer evolved. And in the control rooms. Brute Force didn't use the Halo engine. really like the way that our fire spreads. It does cause issues sometimes. Alright, I'm going to do a few more questions, 2 more questions, and then that's going to be it. Those jackal shields are not coming to SPV3. Alright, one more question. Alright, I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna go with Javier's question. So, right now we're doing an update to SPV3 called SPV 3.2. It's gonna have 6 new missions. Some content from here will make its way in one way or another. And, yeah, I guess that's it. And after SPV 3.2, I am retiring from Halo. Unless people want to pay me to do more work. Because then, maybe I'll do it. And that's it. Hopefully I'll do another stream to show some of the SPV 3.2 stuff, maybe in January or something like that. We still have a lot of work to do. So until then, catch you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.